Hello viewers and welcome to a bit more coverage from E3 2016. Now we're going to be looking at, of course, a bit of F1, a bit of Sebastian Vettel and a Ferrari going around Brazil. But I thought I'd leave this video uncut so we can just see all the details in the video, the menu screens and everything else, rather than just cutting straight to the gameplay. You can see our man getting in there with the Thrustmaster. A big thanks to Gamer's Eye for helping us out getting this footage. And you can see how he gets on the circuit. Of course, it's always so difficult to tell from the videos what's altered in terms of handling and improvements and stuff like that. But certainly this is a 60 frames per second video, which it will show. I think it just shows how much or how little good the Baku videos did running at 30 frames. It really doesn't help the game when you show a game off running at that frame rate compared to the real game. But at the same time, it's a good little conversion for people as well who don't understand frame rate. Baku is an interesting circuit. I think it's going to be a lot of concentration required in terms of the driving. It's got some very precise elements. I suppose in a similar way to Singapore there's it's a long lap at Singapore. The last section of the lap has some sort of repetitive elements. You get a bit of deja vu around it. When you're doing lots of laps, you sort of drift into that malaise, and sometimes mistakes can be made, especially on the latter half of the circuit. You also find on that circuit that it's really only the final two corners that have a flow to it, where you actually feel like you can put your foot down and go for it. This circuit, in terms of Baku, it has a few more areas of top speed, some extra flowing sections, that downhill section soon after the castle looks good. It's going to require committed driving. I know Jenson Button's talked about the additional risk of safety. But it's always a thing with F1. The cars are much safer now than they were before, but you still need a challenge for the drivers, and when you have walls you have more challenge. It's as simple as that. So many courses now have these big runoff areas and tarmac runoffs. They can make a mistake, get back on again. I just don't think that's the way forward. I think, no, test the drivers, make the track slimmer, add gravel there if you have to, whatever. Make it more of a challenge for the drivers now, Of course, here we are, we're going to look at Brazil, which is a circuit I enjoy a great deal. And of course, you're going to see the game running at 60 frames per second here, as you should. And look at the difference it makes when you see 60 frames. Unbelievable, so much smoother. So he'll take a couple of laps to warm up, get back into the swing of things, like a lot of us do when we haven't been playing F1 for a while. As many of you will know, I thought F1 ran a lot better on the consoles than it did on the PC. My PC version has never run very well on F1, so it's something which it just didn't move on. I would test it every few weeks. I'd uninstall it, reinstall it, make sure everything was up to date. It just didn't run very well for me on my PC. So I look forward to seeing this year, it running a lot better. And I think for me, one of the big issues I had last year was uncontrollable wheel spin. They wanted you to opposite lock out of a corner, and you could opposite lock out of every corner, and it felt good, it felt fun. But the reality was that if I'm not putting down that level of power, it shouldn't be constantly spinning the wheels. So it'd be interesting to see how much throttle control you have this year in terms of controlling that wheel spin. But that was something for me which sort of put in this almost a pre-baked driving style of, felt like I was playing grid rather than Formula 1 last year. So it'll be interesting to see if they bring it all together this year. With assists last year was a lot of fun, and the fundamental model of the physics was way better than we'd had in the past, but it wasn't as fun because of the way it was implemented, and that's my opinion. You're welcome to disagree. So racing round then, let's see now. He's got himself up to speed, and let's see how he gets on. So we've got a bit of braking there. You can see the inside wheel locking up. It's been a long time since I played F1, but I can't remember the wheels doing that very often, so it'll be interesting to see that. And we can hear someone in the background talking about the mirrors working. So more detail there. And there's no audio, unfortunately. It's all going through the headphones. So that'll be interesting. I don't know, we'll probably try and get a preview for you guys nearer to release, and when I've actually played it and put some laps into it, I'll give you guys some feedback. I think the main thing this year, last year, Codemasters were working on developing a new engine, and so the game itself was a bit thin in terms of content. This year now they've made that progress and they can really work on the content, and I think there's going to be a much bigger, better package to it this year. back to where it should be, frankly. And I think that's really what Codemaster's got to work on. The thing I'm interested in, I've not seen any mention of it yet actually, is VR. I think VR, if this is going to work with PlayStation VR, is it going to work with Vive and Oculus? They are working on it with Dirt Rally. They are, funnily enough, I have a Dirt t-shirt on. It's actually no relation to what I was talking about today, but there you go. It'll be interesting to see, if they get some VR compatibility. I think VR on F1 has the potential to be amazing. So obviously you need the seat moving position system and everything else for VR, so they've got to implement that. We've got a new HUD there. That's quite nice. I quite like it. I always prefer, I would like an option a bit like Assetto Corsa, where you could grab the HUD and move it where you wanted it in the screen. Sometimes for me, I do still like my sort of revs to be in the middle of the screen, and I like the pressure controls now in terms of input. Maybe they've been there before and I've missed them, but either way I like that. So it's nice. Like you say, I mean, a lot of the times when you're watching motorsports, you don't really know what the drivers are doing, but I tend to always brake and then have a gentle throttle through the corner, progressively accelerating out. I find that's how I drive. So consequently, last year's driving style was more brake, put your foot down, and sort of drift it round, which is a slightly different style and would burn up your tyres basically. Locking that inside wheel again there. So it's great. That was a bit of independent braking. Getting on that inside curb, don't want to do that. See, now if you're doing that in the rain, you'd be straight off like they were in 2005, I think it was, when 5 cars ended off on the same corner there. I'm looking forward to taking this for a spin and getting in the flow. It's been a while since I've done F1, hasn't it? It's been a year nearly since I've done F1, so it'll be interesting to see how they've moved on with it, getting back into the flow of things. Are you watching the races? I do watch the races. It has been a bit dull for me these last couple of years. I used to do Grand Prix blogs. Many of you won't know that, but many of the older viewers will know. I used to do quite detailed blogs on all the races, but these days it's just, for me, it's quite predictable. A Mercedes will win most of the time, and I think when we have a much more mixed grid, much more competitive cars, I think it'll be better. But F1's changed a lot. It's become a lot more corporate, and in many ways the fan base has changed a lot as well. It's a younger fan base now than it was, and the younger fan base, I find that the debates now are always much more aggressive than they were a few years ago. I always thought a few years ago that whether you liked Senna or Prost or Mansell, you never disrespected those drivers. You said they're all brilliant drivers, but I prefer this driver for this reason. Whereas now it's he's rubbish and he's good and he's rubbish, and you're saying my guy's rubbish, and it gets a bit fanboy. And I thought to myself, if we can't just have a conversation about it, there's no point doing the blogs anymore. Because whenever you make YouTube videos, it's got to be fun. You've got to be enjoying this. I've got to be enjoying myself as well. We're not making any money out of these videos, so it's got to be something that's enjoyable. So he's getting the hang of it. More progressive to the acceleration. No opposite lock needed on those corners. In fact, we've not seen a great deal of opposite lock there, so there must be some assists on in this video, and we can't assess which ones they are. We'll pull up the hill. But our man's getting kicked off the system now, so that's it for this video. My random chat just to run with it while there's no audio, and there'll be more from me very soon.